Hey there, fellow coin lovers. Imagine this: you're rummaging through a jar of old pennies that's been sitting in your drawer for years. You find a 1969 D Lincoln penny. You chuckle, thinking it's probably worth a few cents, right? Wrong. That little penny could be worth up to $1.8 million. Yep, you heard me right. 1.8 million bucks. Stick around because today, we're diving into the fascinating world of the 1969 D Lincoln penny, and I'll show you why it might just be your ticket to an unexpected fortune. Alright, first things first. Why in the world is a humble 1969 D Lincoln penny worth so much? Well, it all comes down to a rare error that occurred during the minting process. You see, the 1969 D penny features a very special, misaligned die. That means the design on the penny didn't line up properly, creating this cool double image effect. People went nuts for it, and suddenly, this penny became a hot commodity among collectors. But here's the thing: this error isn't just on any random penny from 1969. Oh no, it's the D mint mark version, meaning it was made in Denver. Why does that matter? Because the D mint mark is relatively rare for pennies from that year, which makes the error even more valuable. If you've got one of these babies lying around, hold on tight. It could be worth millions. Now, you might be thinking, okay, cool, but how do I actually know if my 1969 D penny is worth a fortune? Well, first off, the error has to be clear enough for an expert to notice. A double die error isn't always easy to spot with the naked eye, but trust me, it's there. Look for the doubling on the date and the inscription, Liberty, on the obverse, the head side. If you can spot this double vision, your penny could be worth a whole lot more than the 1 cent it was originally minted as. And you know what? It gets even crazier. These pennies are sometimes being sold for upwards of $1.8 million in the right condition. That's right, $1 million pennies. I mean, I've heard of people finding rare baseball cards in their attics, but a penny worth millions? Now that's a plot twist. Okay, let's break it down with a story. About a year ago, I was digging through a box of old coins I inherited from my grandmother. Nothing too exciting, just a bunch of random pennies, some 80s nickels, a few dimes, you know, the usual. I remember laughing to myself, thinking, there's no way I'm gonna find anything worth anything here. But then, hold on, there it was. A 1969 D Lincoln penny. At first I thought, well, this is just a regular penny. I should probably throw it back in the box and move on. But then I remembered reading about the 1969 D double die error. I had a moment of clarity, like some sort of coin collecting superhero. I took a closer look. And lo and behold, I could see the faint double image on the Liberty and the date. My heart skipped a beat. I got it professionally graded, and guess what? It wasn't worth millions, I wish, but it was definitely worth a lot more than I thought. And that, my friends, is the magic of paying attention to your change. You never know when you could stumble upon something that turns your meh into a cha-ching. Okay, now let's talk about grading, because that's where a lot of you might be like, is my penny in mint condition or just old and crusty? The value of your 1969 D penny really depends on its condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin, no scratches, no wear, and no weird stains. Looking at you, mustard stains from the sandwich you were eating while flipping through your coins. For the 1969 D, if it's in mint state, meaning barely any signs of wear, you could be looking at a really high value. Coins with that nice, shiny, uncirculated look are the ones that fetch top dollar. So, if your penny is looking more well loved than perfect, you might not be in the millionaire club just yet. But hey, it's still worth a lot more than you'd think, alright, so you've got the penny. You've checked it over, you've had a professional grade it, and now you're thinking, okay, I want to sell this thing for millions. But where do you even go? Well, here's the thing. Don't just run to your local pawn shop thinking you're gonna cash out right away. Coins like this need to be sold through specialized auction houses or reputable dealers who know their stuff. Websites like eBay, Heritage Auctions, or even the American Numismatic Association are great places to connect with serious collectors who will pay top dollar for rare finds. So, to wrap it up, if you've got a 1969 D Lincoln penny, it could be worth a small fortune. If it has the double die error, and it's in top condition, we're talking about a potential $1.8 million payout. Not too shabby for a 1-cent coin, right? But here's the kicker. If you're not sure what's lurking in your coin jar, don't throw it away. Take a closer look, get it graded, and you could be sitting on something valuable without even knowing it. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about coins worth money, trust me, there are a lot more out there. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty of tips, strategies, and stories to share with you on how to make money from your old coins. And who knows? You could be the next millionaire I'm talking about. 1973 No mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny that could be worth a fortune if you know what you're looking for. Now, I know what you're thinking. A penny? Seriously? But hear me out, this coin could change your life. And I'm not even exaggerating. Stick around, because I'm about to tell you everything you need to know about this penny that's anything but ordinary. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because who wouldn't want to keep finding out about coins that could make you a fortune? I mean, you might just become the next penny millionaire, and who doesn't want that title? Alright, let's get into it. A 1973 no mint mark Lincoln penny, worth $1.4 million. Sounds wild, right? But trust me, the rarity and condition of this penny make it the perfect example of why you should be digging through those old coin collections you have stashed away. Or if you're like me, maybe you have a junk drawer full of loose change, and honestly, I've found a few pennies that might just be more valuable than I thought. Let's hope. Okay, let's break it down. The 1973 penny is special because it was minted without a mint mark, which is kind of unusual. Normally, you'll find a small letter D or S on the front of the coin, indicating whether it was minted in Denver or San Francisco. But for 1973, there was a small number of pennies struck without any mint mark at all. And that small detail makes it a treasure for collectors. Now, why does this matter? Well, mint marks help us track where and how coins were produced, so when one turns up without a mint mark, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. It's rare, it's mysterious, and it can drive collectors crazy trying to get their hands on it. Now, let's talk numbers. The value of these pennies varies, but if you have one in pristine condition, say, a gem grade MS-67, it could go for around $1.4 million. Yep, you heard that right. $1.4 million. That's not your average pocket change, folks. Let me tell you about my own experience with old coins. A few years ago, I was cleaning out my grandma's house after she moved to Florida. Yes, she's living the dream in a beach house, but I digress. Anyway, I stumbled upon an old jar of change that had been sitting around for decades. You know the kind, where you're like, this has probably been there since I was 10. Well, I didn't think much of it at the time. But a few months later, I decided to take a closer look at some of the coins in there, and let me tell you, I found a 1969 penny in there that I ended up selling for a couple $100. So, if I can find a small treasure like that, you can definitely find a penny worth $1.4 million hiding in your own collection. But seriously, the point is that these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight. Whether you have them in a jar, a coin book, or just tossed around in a drawer, don't underestimate the value of your pennies. Now, let's talk about how to tell if you have a 1973 no mint mark penny that's worth $1.4 million. The first thing you want to check is the date. If it's a 1973, great. But here's where it gets tricky. The most valuable ones are the ones that are in nearly perfect condition, pristine, like they just rolled out of the mint. So, look for any signs of wear and tear, because those pennies aren't going to bring you much more than face value. Sorry, but if you happen to find one that looks minty fresh, we're talking about getting it graded by a professional. There's an entire grading scale that takes into account factors like luster, detail, and the absence of scratches or smudges. If you think it's in the condition that would earn it a high grade, it's time to get that coin to a professional grader. And who knows? You might be sitting on a serious jackpot. Alright, so let's recap. A 1973 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny in gem condition could be worth a whopping $1.4 million. And hey, if you're like me and have a collection of pennies just sitting around collecting dust, maybe it's time to do some serious inspecting. Who knows, you might just have a fortune in your hands. And if you do find that $1.4 million penny, just remember, I helped you find it. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, because I'm here to bring you more tips and strategies on coins worth money. The more you know, the more you can sell. Whether it's a penny or a nickel, I've got you covered. 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. That's right, we're talking about a penny that could be worth an eye-popping $1.9 million. Astonished face now, I know what you're thinking. A penny? Worth how much? It's crazy, right? But stick with me here, because by the end of this video, you'll not only be in the know about this elusive little coin, but you might just start checking your change a lot more carefully. I know I would, and trust me, I've been there. Let's get into it, alright. Let's kick things off with a little backstory about this gem. The 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of those rare finds that makes coin collectors lose their minds. You might have a couple of these floating around in your jar of spare change, but don't let that fool you. Finding one in prime condition is like striking gold. Now, here's the deal. Normally, if you look closely at a penny, you'll find a little mint mark right underneath the date. That mint mark tells you where the coin was made: Philly, P, Denver, D, San Francisco, S, and so on. But in 1979, some pennies were released from the Philadelphia Mint without any mint mark at all. And that's where the magic happens. These no mint mark pennies are extremely rare, and if you find one in pristine condition, you could be holding onto a coin worth a small fortune. The key here is rarity, condition, and historical context. So, what makes these pennies so valuable? Let me explain. First of all, let's talk rarity. In 1979, most pennies were stamped with that P mint mark. A few slipped through the cracks, and those few are the ones worth major bucks today. Why? Well, they're so rare that collectors go absolutely bananas for them. But not just any 1979 no mint mark penny will do. It has to be in mint condition, like brand new, never been touched by human hands kind of condition. If it's been bouncing around in your pocket for years, it's not quite going to fetch that $1.9 million price tag. I'm afraid that I'll tell you a little story from my own life. So, I once found a 1960s penny in my grandma's coin jar. I was so excited thinking I was holding on to something worth a ton. I started researching it, getting all hyped up. I mean, it was shiny, right? So, naturally, it had to be valuable, right? Wrong. Turns out, it was just a common penny that had been sitting in her jar for decades. I learned that lesson the hard way. Always double-check your coins before you get excited. Grinny face with sweat, but when it comes to the 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, we're talking about a different beast altogether. If it's in mint condition, and I mean no scratches, no nicks, no discoloration, it could be worth millions. That's because only a small percentage of those pennies ever made it out without a mint mark, making them ultra-rare. So, let's break down the market value a bit. Right now, the going rate for a 1979 no-mint mark penny in top-tier condition is around $1.9 million. Yup, you heard that right. $1.9 million. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't mind having a few extra $1 million in my pocket. How do you know if yours is worth that much? Well, condition is everything. If you've got one that's in mint condition, meaning it looks like it just rolled off the press, then it could fetch close to that 1.9 mil mark. But be warned, the market's always changing, and collectors can get picky. You'll need a professional appraiser to confirm your penny's value, so don't just take my word for it, get it checked out. But hey, if you're finding pennies in your couch cushions, it's still worth taking a closer look. Even pennies from the 1980s, 90s, and early 2000s can be worth a lot of money if they're era coins or in excellent condition. You just never know when the next big discovery will come your way. Alright, so now that you know how much a 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny can be worth, it's time to start your coin hunting journey. Start digging through your change, check that old jar in your garage, and see if you have a potential fortune on your hands. Just be sure to keep those pennies in pristine condition. Don't make the same mistake I did with my grandma's jar of coins. Before you go running off to check your pockets for those hidden treasures, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got tons of coin tips, tricks, and strategies to help you turn your spare change into a small fortune. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on the next $1 million penny that could be hiding in plain sight. And if you do find a 1979 no-mint Mark penny, don't forget to come back and tell me all about it. I'll be here with more tips to help you cash in on coins worth big money. 1979 D Lincoln 1-cent penny could be worth a small fortune. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait, is this a joke? Nope. Stick around, and I'll show you why this penny is anything but ordinary. Let's get into it. Alright, so what's the deal with this penny? Is it a golden ticket? A time traveler's currency? Nope, but close. The 1979 D Lincoln penny is one of those rare finds in the coin world that, when you know what you're looking for, can really make your wallet do a happy dance. But before you start rummaging through your coin jar like you're on a treasure hunt, let's break it down. First off, what makes the 1979 D penny so special? Well, it's not just any old penny, it's all about the minting error. You see, sometimes, when pennies are made at the Denver Mint, they can be struck with an error that gives them a little extra oomph. In this case, we're talking about the famous double die error. That means the design on the penny looks, well, extra. Let's call it overachieving, like it got a little too much coffee that morning. It shows up in places like Lincoln's face and the date, making it look like someone tried to double stamp the coin. Now, imagine you're just casually going through your pocket change, and you find one of these bad boys. You probably wouldn't think much of it, right? You might think, oh, it's a little scuffed up penny, probably not worth much. Well, hold on to your horses, my friend, because when a penny has that double die error, it can skyrocket in value. A well-preserved 1979 D penny with the right error has been known to fetch up to $1.7 million at auction. Yep, $1.7 million for a single penny. To put that in perspective, that's like finding a $1,700,000 bill just lying around. And you thought finding that extra fry in your McDonald's bag was a jackpot. But it gets better. Here's the kicker. This isn't just a random penny you'll find on the street. No. It's about the condition and that elusive error. The better the condition, the higher the price tag. So, if you find a 1979 D penny that has sharp details, nice coloring, and that signature double die, you're looking at some serious cash. But don't expect to find one in a vending machine or on the sidewalk, alright? It's more like finding a needle in a haystack. But hey, I have a confession to make. Back when I was younger, like way younger, I had a jar of pennies I'd been collecting for ages. I thought they were all just, well, pennies. I even traded some to my neighbor for a candy bar once. Can you believe that? Imagine if I had one of these 1979 D double die error pennies in that jar. I could have been living on a private island by now. But instead, I ended up with cavities. Go figure. Anyway, let this be a lesson. Sometimes, that old coin sitting in your drawer could be worth far more than its face value. So, how do you actually spot these pennies? Here's a quick tip. Look closely at the year, the mint mark, and the design. The D mint mark is essential. That little letter indicates it was minted in Denver, and that's where the magic happens, or in this case, the mistake. If you're trying to get a closer look, use a magnifying glass or a loupe. Those little details will make all the difference. Now you may be wondering, is this penny just sitting in my jar worth $1.7 million? Unfortunately, the answer is probably not. These pennies are super rare, and only those with the right error and condition can make it to the high dollar zone. But don't lose hope. If you've got a 1979 D penny that's got that double die error and looks pretty good, you're sitting on a golden opportunity. A little bit of patience, a few phone calls to coin dealers, and who knows, you might be in for a big surprise. So, here's what I want you to take away from today: check your pennies. The 1979 D Lincoln 1-cent penny could just be hiding in plain sight, and it could make you a pretty penny, pun totally intended. If you've got a jar of old change, maybe it's time to start inspecting them a little closer. Who knows, you might just have a fortune in your hands. 1988 No mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny hanging around. You might just be in for a big surprise. No, it's not the typical, "Oh, this is a rare coin" type of surprise. We're talking about a coin that's worth, wait for it, $1.8 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny, folks, worth more than my entire college tuition. But wait, don't rush off to your drawers just yet. Stick around because we're diving into everything you need to know about the 1988 No mint mark Lincoln penny, its history, why it's worth so much, and how you can spot one of these bad boys in your own collection. Spoiler alert, it's not as easy as just picking up every 1988 penny you find, but hey, it's worth a shot, so grab your magnifying glass, and let's dig into the world of rare coins. If you're ready, hit that subscribe button because trust me, you don't want to miss out on more tips like this. Alright, let's set the scene. It's 1988. The world is vibing to the latest hits by Michael Jackson, and the best-selling movie of the year is Beetlejuice. Yep, I know you're humming the theme song now. Meanwhile, in the world of coins, the US Mint is busy pumping out billions of pennies with mint marks all over them, except for one little batch that somehow slipped through the cracks: the famous 1988 No mint mark Lincoln penny. Now, you might be thinking, what's the big deal? It's just a penny. Well, it's not just any penny. You see, most pennies minted in 1988 had a mint mark on them, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But some sneaky little pennies made it out without a mint mark, and that's where the magic happens. These rare pennies are insanely valuable, potentially worth up to $1.8 million. And you know what's funny? The mint mark, that tiny letter on the coin, is basically the coin's ID card. Without it, these pennies are like the missing persons of the coin world. And just like that one friend who never shows up to the group chat but somehow becomes super famous, these missing mint mark pennies became incredibly rare and sought after by collectors. Now, let's get down to why it's worth a small fortune. You see, these 1988 No mint mark pennies were made in very small numbers and never officially issued. Because of that, they're considered to be an error coin. But here's where it gets a little murky. There's a lot of debate about whether these pennies were actually struck on purpose or if it was just some weird mistake. Either way, collectors and investors went crazy for them. And when you have a rare coin with some uncertainty around it, well, it becomes a hot commodity. Here's the kicker: it's not even that easy to spot these coins. The 1988 No mint mark Lincoln penny looks pretty much identical to a regular penny, except for that lack of mint mark. You need to be extra careful when you're looking through your collection. I remember the first time I heard about these pennies. I was like, I've got a bunch of 1988 pennies. Maybe one's worth $1 million. So, I spent hours sifting through change, squinting at every single penny like some sort of treasure hunter, only to find out they were all D mint marks. But hey, at least I got a nice stack of pennies for my piggy bank, right? So, how do you find this elusive coin? Well, your best bet is to have a magnifying glass, good lighting, and a keen eye. You'll want to check the reverse side of the penny for the absence of the mint mark, which is typically found below the date. If you spot one without that mint mark, congratulations. You might just have yourself a rare, ultra-valuable penny on your hands. But be warned, a lot of counterfeit or altered coins float around in the market, so make sure you get your penny authenticated before you start dreaming of yacht parties and fancy vacations. And hey, while we're talking about rare pennies, why stop at just the 1988 No mint mark Lincoln penny? There are plenty of other coins that are worth big bucks, and if you keep an eye out for them, you could make a nice chunk of change. Pun intended. Some of these rare coins might just be hiding in plain sight, like in your coin jar or loose change. So, next time you get some pennies back from your coffee run, take a minute to check 'em out. Who knows? You might find your own ticket to the big leagues. Alright, friends, that's all for today's dive into the fascinating world of the 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. If you've got one of these bad boys, don't just toss it back into your pocket change. Take it to a professional, get it authenticated, and who knows, you might just be sitting on a small fortune. Before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. We've got more coin tips, rare finds, and money-making strategies coming your way. And if you're already a coin collector, share your stories with us in the comments below. Have you ever found a rare coin? Let's get a conversation going about the coins that made you do a double take. 1993 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, and why it could be sitting in your wallet right now, just waiting to make you rich. Stick around, and you'll want to check every penny you find today. Trust me, this one's a game changer. Alright, let's break this down. So, why is the 1993 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny such a big deal? Well, first things first, let's talk about what makes this penny special. You know how most pennies have a little letter stamped on them, right? That's the mint mark. It's like the coin's social security number, telling you which US mint made it. You'll find mint marks like D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or P for Philadelphia. But the 1993 no-mint Mark penny? It doesn't have one. Now, normally that wouldn't be a huge deal, but in this case, it's an absolute jackpot. You know, when I first heard about this coin, I thought it was like one of those fake news things. I mean, how could a penny without a mint mark be worth millions? Well, turns out, I was the one getting schooled. This penny was actually minted in Philadelphia, but somehow, during production, they forgot to stamp that tiny letter on it. A little oversight? Maybe. A giant money-making mistake? Definitely. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You might be thinking, okay, but I've got a bunch of 1993 pennies sitting around. Well, not all of them are worth $1 million. No. Only the ones without the mint mark. The ones with the mint mark are pretty common, so they're not going to make you rich, but the no-mint mark variety? That's the golden ticket. It's like finding a 4-leaf clover in a field of 3-leaf clovers. And trust me, I know about luck. I once found a coin in my backyard while digging around for, don't laugh, my lost keys. It was a 1982 penny, and I was like, hey, it's probably worth something. Well, spoiler alert, it wasn't. But hey, the 1993 no-mint mark penny? That's the kind of find that gets you excited. Now, let's get to the juicy stuff. How much is this penny actually worth? A lot. We're talking a whopping $1.5 million. Yes, that's right. If you've got one of these rare pennies sitting in your change jar or tucked away in a drawer, you might be sitting on a fortune. So how did this happen? Well, it all boils down to rarity. When the US Mint made these coins, they didn't exactly keep track of every little mistake. But that mistake turned into something valuable. The no-mint mark 1993 penny is incredibly rare, and rare things are worth a lot of money, especially when it comes to coins. Collectors pay top dollar for mistakes like this, because they know they won't come across one again anytime soon. It's kind of like finding the only untouched slice of pizza at the party. You're not gonna let that go. Now, here's a little tip. If you think you found one, don't go and toss it into your piggy bank without checking its condition. The coin's value can skyrocket depending on how pristine it is. I mean, no one wants to pay $1 million for a coin that's been sitting in the dirt for the last 30 years. You want that shiny, uncirculated look, and of course, it's important to authenticate it. If you find one, consider taking it to a professional coin appraiser who can confirm its authenticity. There are also online resources and grading services that can help you figure out if you've really got a winner on your hands. Trust me, it's worth the investment to make sure you're not leaving money on the table. And hey, who knows? That penny might be just the start of your coin collection empire. So, what have we learned today? If you find a 1993 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, you could be holding a rare treasure worth $1.5 million. It's like a coin collector's dream come true. So go ahead, grab that magnifying glass and start searching through your loose change. Maybe you'll strike gold, or at least, well, strike a pretty sweet find. And hey, if you don't find one, no worries. There are always other valuable coins out there, and I'm here to help you find them. Just make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join the coin hunting community for more tips and strategies on making a fortune with your old coins. I'll be back with more valuable finds, so don't miss out. Who knows, your next coin might be the one that makes you rich. 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. Sounds like a lot of jargon, right? Well, buckle up, because this penny's not your average change. So, let's break it down. Normally, if you look at a penny, you'll see a little mint mark. That tiny letter, D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, tells you where the coin was made. But in 2004, something strange happened. A handful of pennies were struck with no mint mark at all. That little absence of a letter made them super rare. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, no mint mark, so what? Well, here's the kicker. Because this is such a rare mistake, collectors have gone wild over these pennies. And by wild, I mean willing to fork out up to $1.8 million for one in pristine condition. No joke. I mean, that's like finding a golden ticket in a chocolate bar, except you're way less likely to choke on it. So, how rare are these pennies, you ask? Well, the exact number of these mistakes isn't known, but experts believe it's a very small batch. The reason these pennies are so valuable isn't just because they have no mint mark, but because they're in such great condition. They're usually found in uncirculated rolls, which makes them even more coveted. Now, let's talk about the condition. Not all of them are worth a fortune. If you have one that's scratched up, dirty, or just plain worn out, don't get too excited. But if you've got one that's well preserved, look out. We're talking mint state, gem quality pennies that can fetch a hefty price. We're talking 6 figures, sometimes even 7 if you're lucky. I remember one time I found a coin, a 1981 penny, and I thought, whoa, this has got to be worth a fortune. I ran to Google faster than you can say coin collector, only to find out that my gold mine was just an ordinary penny worth, well, 1 cent. Talk about a letdown. But this 2004 no-mint mark penny? That could definitely change the game for you if you find it in your change. Now, let's get serious for a second. What are your chances of finding one of these? It's tough, right? But hey, you never know. Coins are still floating around out there, and a penny from your pocket could be worth more than the coffee you're buying. It's always worth checking your change, and sometimes, the weird, forgotten pennies are the ones you should pay the most attention to. So, to sum it up, the 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one rare gem in the world of coin collecting. If you've got one of these babies, especially if it's in mint condition, you could be holding on to a penny worth a whopping $1.8 million. Pretty wild, huh? And if you've got one in your wallet, you better check it out, or better yet, bring it to a coin expert and get it graded. Who knows, it might just be the jackpot you've been waiting for. So, what should you do next? Keep your eyes peeled for those rare finds, and remember, you might not be a millionaire yet, but you could be one penny away. If you enjoyed this little treasure hunt and want more tips on how to spot coins worth a fortune, be sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and ring the bell so you never miss out on a chance to turn your pocket change into a gold mine. And hey, if you've ever found a rare coin, I want to hear your story in the comments below. Let's chat about what treasures are hiding in our wallets.